Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Sometimes a book just grabs you by the collar and shakes you, fundamentally changing the way you see something you thought you already understood. For me, that book was Emily Nagoski's Come As You Are, the surprising new science that will transform your sex life. I picked it up because let's be honest, who isn't curious about sex and how it works? But what I found inside wasn't just a guide to better sex, it was a profound, empathetic, and often hilarious dismantling of pretty much every lie and misconception our culture feeds us about women's sexuality. Nagoski, with her PhD in health behavior and a serious background in human sexuality research, doesn't just tell you what to do, she shows you why things are the way they are, using science and real-life stories in a way that feels like you're just chatting with your smartest, funniest friend. This isn't some dusty academic tome, I promise. It's a conversation, and by the end of it, you'll feel so much more normal, so much more confident in your own skin, and honestly, a lot less alone. So let's dive in. The core message of Come As You Are is incredibly simple yet revolutionary. You are normal. And not just normal, but amazing and beautiful and perfect, just as you are. Nagoski argues that for centuries, Western science and medicine have viewed women's sexuality as men's sexuality, basically the same, but not quite as good. This led to all sorts of bogus ideas, like the assumption that women should orgasm reliably with intercourse, and if they don't, they're broken. But the truth, as Nagoski reveals, is that we've been told the wrong story, not deliberately, but simply because the science was missing or misinterpreted. She starts right at the very beginning with anatomy, and this is where she introduces one of the book's most important unifying themes. We're all made of the same parts, just organized in different ways, and no two are alike. She talks about how the clitoris, for example, is far more than just a little nub at the top of the vulva. It's a vast, mostly internal structure, homologous to the penis, with nearly double the nerve endings, and its only job is sensation. She even shares how medieval anatomists named women's external genitals the pudendum, from the Latin for to make ashamed, assuming women's genitals were hidden because of shame, when biologically, they're positioned for function, just like men's. This immediately sets the stage for how culture can impose meaning where there's just biology. I had a friend who always worried her inner labia were too big because they didn't look like the perfectly tucked in was in magazines. Nagoski would tell her and us that almost all the images we see, especially in porn, are often digitally altered, and that the vast variation it involves is completely normal and healthy. So, if you've ever felt self-conscious about your own bits, grab a mirror as she suggests and start noticing the things you like. It's an exercise in cognitive dissonance, pushing against those ingrained negative thoughts. From anatomy, she moves into the brain. Introducing the dual control model, developed by Eric Jansen and John Bancroft. This is the game changer. Imagine your sexual response isn't just about turning on, it's about a balance between a sexual accelerator, your sexual excitation system, or says, and sexual brakes, your sexual inhibition system. Or says, your accelerator responds to sexually relevant stimuli, anything you see, hear, smell, touch, taste, or imagine that your brain associates with arousal. Your brakes respond to potential threats, anything your brain interprets as a good reason not to be turned on right now. From this to relationship issues to social reputation, we all have both, but the sensitivity of these systems varies wildly from person to person. Some people have a super sensitive accelerator, others a super sensitive brake, and most are medium. She jokes that if she does her job right, you'll be telling everyone you know, oh hi everybody, there's a break. And honestly, she's right. The simple understanding immediately reframes everything. So how does this all play out in real life? That's where context comes in. Nagoski emphasizes that context, your external circumstances, and your present mental state is absolutely crucial to your sexual well-being. Remember the tickling example. If your partner tickles you when you're feeling flirty, it's fun. If you're annoyed, you want to punch them. Same sensation, different context, different perception. This applies to sex too. She describes your emotional brain as having one brain, where all your emotional responses sex, stress, love, disgust, compete, and interact. This is why, when you're stressed, your brain interprets almost everything as a potential threat, slamming on the brakes. So, if you're wondering, why don't I get turned on anymore? It's often not you, it's your context. Speaking of context, let's talk about arousal non-contours. This one blew my mind. Nagoski explains that there's often a significant mismatch between what your genitals are doing physiological response and what you're actually feeling subjective arousal. For men, there's about a 50 overlap, but for women, it's only about 10. So when a woman's genitals lubricate, it doesn't necessarily mean she's turned on or desirous or enjoying it. It just means something is sexually relevant to her body. It's like her genitals are saying, hey, this is a restaurant, but her brain is deciding if she actually wants to eat there. This busts the dangerous myth that you said no but your body said yes, which is tragically used against sexual assault survivors. Your words are the best indicator of your arousal and desire, not your genital response. So, if you're with a partner, teach them to listen to your words, not your fluids. Then there's desire. Nagoski emphatically states sex is not a drive, like hunger or thirst. It's an incentive motivation system, more like curiosity. This means you don't have to wait for out-of-the-blue spontaneous desire to strike. Many women around 30 experience responsive desire, meaning they become aroused and then feel desire, especially in the right context. And about half of women experience a blend of both. So if you're not feeling that spontaneous urge, you're not broken. You can cultivate responsive desire by creating the right context. This can mean raising your heart rate with exciting activities together, like Romeo and Juliet doing push-ups or reciting lines, as she hilariously describes, or deepening intimacy and connection. And sometimes, that feeling of desire, feeling like a drive, is actually your little monitor in your brain getting frustrated because your expectations about sex aren't being met. The solution often involves adjusting your goals, effort, or expectations. And what about orgasm? It's the fantastic bonus. Nagoski assures us that orgasm happens in your brain, not your genitals. And here's another big one. Only about 30% of women reliably orgasm from vaginal penetration alone. The most common way for women to orgasm is through clitoral stimulation. There are no right or better kinds of orgasms. They're all just the sudden release of sexual tension. The quality of an orgasm is entirely context dependent. So, if you've had varying orgasms, that's completely normal. She uses the beautiful metaphor of your brain as a flock of desires. For an ecstatic orgasm, you want all the birds in your flock, all your various emotional and motivational systems to be flying in the same direction, coordinated toward pleasure. This means turning on all the ons and turning off all the offs. This leads us to the crucial final step: understanding and managing our meta-emotions, which is how you feel about how you feel. This, Nagoski says, is the single most important thing you can do to improve your sex life. If you feel ashamed, frustrated, or fearful about your sex life, that will diminish your experience. But if you can cultivate acceptance, welcoming confidence and joy, your orgasmic and overall sexual experience will expand. Our culture bombards us with moral, medical, and media messages that make us feel inadequate, diseased, or shameful about our bodies and desires. We absorb these sexual scripts that give us an unreliable map of how sex should be, but often doesn't match our personal terrain. The key is to trust your terrain, trust your own internal experience, and let go of the map. This involves a breathing process for the false ideas we've held onto. How do you do that? By practicing non-judging. It's about neutrally noticing your internal states without categorizing them as good or bad, right or wrong. It's like being your own emotion coach. Emotions are tunnels, she says, and you have to walk all the way through the darkness to get to the light at the end. So what does this mean for you? Come As You Are isn't just a book about sex, it's a book about self-acceptance, empowerment, and reclaiming your innate wholeness. It means that whatever you're experiencing in your sexuality, whether it's challenges with arousal, desire, orgasm, pain, or lack of sensation, is likely the result of your sexual response mechanism functioning appropriately in an inappropriate world. You're not broken, the world around you is. My biggest takeaway and my biggest recommendation for you is to be kind to yourself. Start by recognizing the profound variety of human sexuality. If your body doesn't fit the standard or your desire isn't spontaneous, that's completely normal. Practice the exercises she suggests. Look at your own body with curiosity. Identify what turns on your accelerator and what hits your brakes. and work towards completing your stress cycles. Allow yourself to feel your feelings without judgment, and remember that you have the power to change your context and, crucially, how you feel about your sexuality. Nagoski writes, "The sexuality you have right now is it. And it's beautiful, even especially if it's not what you were taught it should be." This book is a permission slip to stop trying to fix yourself and instead to truly embrace who you are as a sexual being. It's about living with confidence and joy in your body. It's about realizing that there is no secret ingredient, it's just you, and that, my friends, is truly amazing. I highly recommend picking up Come As You Are if any of this resonated with you. It really can transform the way you understand yourself.